Hello and welcome back to the next One Piece review and discussion. And this chapter is just insane. Like everything Oda has done here, the whole setup to this moment has been immaculate. This is a chapter that Eam just demonstrates why they are the king of the world. So, without further ado, chapter 1189, King of the World. Our cover story is Nami scolding three monkeys that have dirtied some washing out on the line, and the monkeys are represented by Zoro, Luffy, and Sanji, and they're doing the sort of see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. So like Zoro's covering his mouth, Luffy's laughing in Gear 5 but covering his eyes, and Sanji is obviously covering his ears. So it's they're all up to mischief, and I like the little reference here from them. But nevertheless, we have a insane chapter to discuss. So last we had left off, we had Eam starting to remember and recall Joy Boy. Didn't know why it was happening, obviously fighting Luffy in this Gear 5 form. Joy Boy was someone who had reached out and spoke what sounded like maybe it was like on a call, spoke to Eam. It was the first time they'd ever spoken to each other. And Luffy had no idea who this dude was, why he's always being referred to him as him, was just trying to land a hit. And honestly, for a lot of this chapter, that's all Luffy was trying to do, was to land even a single hit. And he couldn't. He's even partway through was like, I hit him before, but now I just can't seem to land in a clean hit. Like, it is just not happening. So we saw the fight unfold. We saw Ebe pulling out like a snake man like attack where he goes to punch Luffy, it redirects to hit Luffy because he dodged out the way. We saw Luffy transform into a genie who was then creating this mad amount of clouds and trying to do like a sucker punch because he spoke about Loki and how he was going to avenge him, and Loki was obviously just listening this whole time. Jinbei protected Loki from an attack and was like, right, Luffy, if this guy's your pal, I've got his back, no problem. And Eam looks down and they're obviously looking after Shori, and he's like surprised that Shori's only just getting out of the ice now because obviously he sent an omen at her, and all the subsequent attacks. It's quite strange for Ian to have questioned it, but nevertheless, Ragnar obviously retouched the ice and thawed her out. And what we see is the discussion between the Straw Hats about, what really is the world government? Like, who is this dude? Could he be someone even above the Holy Knight, if that's possible? Like, five elders are the only people, like, at the highest authority, surely. And Brooke has a really, really cool moment of saying, you're like, there is no sort of organization more shrouded in mystery than the whale government themselves. And Eames sees Brooke and is like, that dude's just called her Princess Shuri, like a name long forgotten for Gunko. And then he's like, surely he's not him, right? That's not the guy with the afro. So Eames now remembering Brooke from back during the Asparia, debacle where he came and captured Gunko from the castle and escorted her off, leaving Brooke for death. But we see more fights, more, punches that Luffy was trying to land, escaping from these omen attacks, these bombs that were exploding that were like heat seeking onto him. And ultimately, while Luffy was running away, Eam went and pulled a different sword out from the wheel of eyes that he's currently got circling him. And he pulls out Vohu, the blade of nothingness, and it withers all of the trees around in the vicinity. And it clears a line of sight for Eam to finally see where Luffy is running away to. And in moments, like seconds pass, They catch eyes with each other. They're like, right, I can see you. And Luffy's like, well, I can see you now as well. Luffy tries to come down, and before he gets a chance, Eam has already like blinked, appears in front of Luffy. Luffy spurts blood everywhere, and Eam looks at him and says, "You're not Joy Boy, because Joy Boy wouldn't be this weak." And Luffy is impaled on the blade of nothing. So we pick up Luffy, blood from his mouth, blood from an open wound in his chest, and just absolutely Eam destroys him in this moment because he now pins him to a tree, sword still impaled through Luffy. Absolutely crazy. Like, we've seen Luffy take some like losses in the past, like really heavy hits, but this alone is enough to like cause such a puncture wound through Luffy. Like, the blood he's losing here, and this what the sword's obviously capable of doing, like withering everything around it. It doesn't wither this tree, but I guess through sheer force of will from Eam and piercing the blade through the tree, he just leaves Luffy punctured to the tree, leaves him hanging on this tree, and it's Usopp who feels it first. So we're now getting finally even more sort of set up that Usopp's observation is on another level. He's the one that can feel it first. He observes it, he sees it, he knows something bad has just happened. Because Nami looks over and it's like, Usopp's what's wrong? Like, why are you reacting? All of a sudden, like, nothing's going on. And he's like, oh, it's Luffy. I'm just kind of worried about him. And she's like, why are you being so ominous? Like, all of a sudden, like, what's actually going on? He's going to be fine. Do you know what I mean? And Jinbei steps in. Jinbei, this whole arc has been such a voice of reason for the Straw Hat. And, like, coming out with absolute bangers. And here he is again going, you know what? He's like, Nami, look, you've got to be real here. That dude sent a full giant, an ancient giant, swiftly to defeat, like, sent him flying. We really need to take this guy seriously. And Loki's like, obviously, like, yo, Fishman, like, who you hell are you saying is defeated? Like, I'm still here. And he's like, look, I don't know about you guys, but I felt that. And Luffy's haki has now suddenly got weaker. So even though Usopp felt it first, Jinbei can now feel it. I do think there was obviously a bit of a delay, but we know Jinbei is a very capable fighter, capable of using haki, capable of being the absolute dude that he is, that knows that Luffy's in trouble. Usopp hopefully is going to start doing stuff now, knowing what he's just sensed. But we see in this moment, Frankie and Brooke are now looking after Princess Shuri. They're obviously talking about you can't warm her up too quickly from being thawed out. And Brooke's obviously like, don't worry, I've got no body heat, I'm only bones. He's like, Princess Shuri, please tell me you're in there. Please tell me it's you. Come on, it has to be you in there. You saved me back then, didn't you? And from behind, Ragni and Usopp square up to the two of them, squeaking away. And he's like, well, like, Brooke, if something's going to happen, I need to be ready. Are we all good here? Like, if things get scary, I can, pull out an attack. And before anyone else can speak, High Ruden and Gerd come in at like Mark 1, flying on one of those fall ships, straight into Loki. Fucking ass over tea kettle, just the ship splinters, High Ruden goes off. Luckily, Chopper is also with them and cushions Gerd's fall into Loki here. They're like, whoa, crazy entrance, guys. But, like, how are we? What's going on? And obviously, Gerd starts to just, compliment Chopper for being so resourceful, so kind and reliable in this moment. Chopper loves the compliment as always and telling her, you don't have to be such a jerk about it. It doesn't really make me happy. You giving me like nice compliments. But we see Gerd straight into action. Loki's lost a lot of blood. I love the fact that we had a whole build up of how much they hated Loki. And now knowing what they know, Gerd is like, you've lost a lot of blood. Let me see your wounds. this is really bad, but look, you're going to make your injuries worse, so I'm going to take care of you type of thing. So Chopper engaged straight in this moment, just taking care of like priority one here because Loki's the only one who, well, one of the only ones who can deal with Eam at this present moment. So Hiruden is thinking as to why he showed up here, and he jumps back to a conversation he just had with Elder Ja Rule. And Ja Rule tells him, look, you haven't got any time to waste. You've got to go and back up Loki. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, the kids are getting captured. He's like, look, we can rescue the kids. That's fine. We'll have that. But regardless, that will only give us a reprieve because their whole goal here is to subjugate us. You know, they're trying to take us by force. The children are, yes, a means to their end of a plan here, but the whole point is this decision isn't just something that like is decided at the reverie. Like they are coming here by force, and if I'm being honest right now, there is a dude out there that is at the heart of this, and this really can't be like the whole story, right? You know, there's a lot going on that still needs to be figured out, but you're needed elsewhere. We can handle this. So that's why he's now here with Loki. He asks Loki, he's like, right, who the hell is this dude? And Loki responds being like, yeah, okay, I sort of do know who this guy is. And back over at the tree, Luffy is just like giving coughs and wheezes. He's still alive, barely, but we can see Eam is now deciding that this isn't enough. And if this isn't a way for Oda to really nail down, really highlight how strong and vindictive and just a sheer menace of a villain Eam is, he starts to pull out a second sword. This man's not done here. He's like, you don't seem able to move. And that's fine. That sword feeds on life force. So currently, we have a sword, the Vohu sword of nothingness, piercing through Luffy, draining his life force. And we know through prior multiple years, Luffy's techniques weaken his life force. We've seen it happen time and time again. He literally pushes his body to the brink to the point where, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but again, it was never really confirmed. Did he actually die with Kaido's attack? That's what awakened the Gear 5. That's what awakened the Nika fruit. He is on the brink of death here again in just one attack from him. And then the start of the chapter literally hides that this is the only hit Eam has landed on Luffy thus far. And it's already a sword through the chest, paling him to a tree, draining his life force. And he's like, right, okay, currently while you're not being able to move, I'm going to use this sword. And he's like, let's see how many slashes you can endure before you perish. And there's a shot of Luffy just like still trying to hold eye contact, still in gear 5, which is very impressive, but blood everywhere. He's so weak. He's so vulnerable right now. And he's like, Monkey D. Luffy. Such a detestable name. And he's like, do you know what makes it worse? Do you know what makes it really bad? That your two older siblings have different names. Because Ian has decided that physical violence isn't enough to break Luffy. No, 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 no. He's going now on the emotional, mental front. He's hitting this man with both barrels to really knock Luffy down a peg or two. And he's like, a brother who was slain by the Navy. And we see the sword piercing the tree, or a tree just splinters in the wave of this sword. Another who is a prominent member in the Revolutionary Army. And we see Eam drives a second sword through the tree, through Luffy, and it is called Fragrark. We're going to go with that for the moment because these are still early translations. But Fragarch or Fragrarch, this sword is a sea stone sword, or the sword of the sea god. And he's like, you three are just very an ill-mannered trio. And we see that we jump back to Loki remembering when Harold was, killed, when he had to deal that deadly blow to his own father. He was in that final chamber with Ja Rule, Gabon, Shanks, and Shanks is telling him, you can't just go crazy now. Like, you can't let your anger consume you here. Like, what are you planning to do next? And he's like, well, what are you talking about? Of course, I'm going to make my way and find these dudes. I want my payback for what they did to my father. And he's like, you know what? Fair enough. I consider Harold a friend, you know, and I would want nothing more than to avenge him. But do you clearly know, you know, what the government is trying to do? They've just attempted to take over Elbath, and your priority now should be to prepare for war. And Loki's like, full on war with the world government, like, not what I had in mind, bit more personal, I just want to deal with the men who have caused this, lay it all to rest. Like, this is what I'm talking about, the revenge here. And Shanks is like, all right then, who is it that's your target? Who is it that's responsible? And he's like, well, it is all the world government bastards who've done this, so of course I'm aiming towards them. And Shanks looks at him and goes, do you really understand though, Loki? The one who tried to use Harold is the king of this world. And we see they literally laugh him off. Yarul's like, the whole system's built so there isn't a king. We've got the five elders for a reason. No sole ruler, all this. It would just contradict everything. And Loki's just laughing away like, we're really a secret king. I guess if what you're saying is true, I can just take his head. And Gabon's like, Shanks, is this really what you want to be like saying? And he's like, look, they might not believe me. They probably don't. It's fine. But you know what? You won't even make it to the Holy Land because his power is so immeasurable. I can't even comprehend it myself. When he was there, he was like, it's on another level. Only one person has ever managed to make it there, and Loki knows who it is instantly because we see the rocks and he puts it together. He's like, he knows Rox has been there. He knows Rox has made it to that room to see who is there. And he's like, we do not need to rush this fight with this man right now. Not yet. So now we know the big driving force. Shanks knows about Eam and has for a long time. Probably why he went to the Holy Land for more of an infiltration. And now he's got the idea that a war is coming, it will happen, and we need to prepare for it. So we can see, obviously, Loki, we know, shrugs it off. He goes out to see. Yarul was like, please don't do anything stupid. And Loki confers and tells Harun here and everybody's like, look, those few years that I was like out the country, I wasn't even able to make it to him. You know, this king of the world has come here, then this is the perfect chance. Because why don't we try and take him on? And Harun's like, you really have such a simple mind, but you know what? Fine, got no objections. We're going to take him down for our father. And we can see now Harun is stepping up. So Harun's about to jump in the ring with Ian, which is going to be fucking sick to watch. But we can see while all that's going on, the Straw Hats are just stood there going, well, this conversation just really got away from us. Like, quite a bizarre topic has just come up here. So we're kind of saying that there is a king that does sit at the world. Then what's the point of the five elves? Like, what's their role in this? And we can see Ragnar immediately goes to try and freeze Gunko again. And Brooke is like, whoa, whoa, what are you doing? There's no need to do this. And Chopper like translates being like, she's dangerous. He froze her. He's trying to freeze her again. And they freak out thinking like, oh, Ragnar was the one that froze her in the first place. And we see Brooke rages, shouting at the squirrel, saying, you know what? She made indeed be dangerous. But, rest assured, she was being controlled. It's not her fault. This girl is like a daughter to me. And we watch Ragnir's face just like light up, like thinking, oh, like they're both like father and daughter, and thinks it's so adorable. So Ragnar is won over now at this point. All of a sudden, Robin clone springs out from flowers here in front of Chopper, having heard everything. Robin's like, wow, what a string of interesting conversations going on here. Anyway, Chopper, we need you at the library right now, please. And Chopper looks over because, again, they're not far from the library. It's only on the other side of this part of the branch because we see Saul literally waving from the top of the library. So Chopper's immediately, obviously, heading in that direction. Not sure why. Why would Chopper be needed? Because we know Biblo saved most of the books. So whether it's something to do with Biblo needs help, maybe. But Robin looks fine, Saul looks fine. So I'm going to make an assumption it's to do with Biblo. But we go back over. The chapter's jumping around, but there's so much going on. It's crazy, and we're still not done. Because now Eve's like, right, next up, starts to summon another weapon. And this time it's an axe. And he looks and he grabs it. And he's like, oh, my apologies. But this is the next blade you're going to have to suffer. And he's like, how unfortunate. This is the third one up. The Zing Tian axe. So Eve's just pulling weapons out that he's not really choosing. He's just like he's just summoning Omen, and then the Omen's giving him a weapon. And there is a meaning to these weapons that we're about to find out, but he summons an axe. And I just love the fact that he's looking down at Luffy, currently got two swords pierced through his chest, not moving, not going anywhere. The closest to death's door Luffy's ever possibly been from actually dying, really. And he's like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry this is the weapon I've pulled. Well, I guess this is how it goes. But we jump over, and this is where we get the explanation. So, back at the seaport, we see Zoro and Summer clashing. And I mean, Zoro's already three swords, King of Hell, Dragon Damnation, massive attack. Like, we've never seen Zoro jump so quickly into a full blown fight immediately. Like, the Lucci fight, he warms up a bit, he uses two swords, he plays around, he then gets serious. This is so, like, serious from the get go. Zoro's locked in, but Summer's got a blade. Summer also has a sword, a massive long sword like type rapier that he just easily blocks the three sword attack from Zoro. And this sword is called Gram. And he's laughing away maniacally. And he blows Zoro back and he goes, you know what? 800 years ago, there were 19 kings who forged our world and made a vow for equality. And do you know what they did? They placed their weapons all around the empty throne to mark that oath. Nemesis, Stigma, Tohu, Bohu, Longinus, Muramasa. These are but some of the 19 world weapons that were laid to rest. But you know what? Why am I telling you this? Well, the Great One revives us with the Omen and grants us access to those weapons. I'm not lying. The power of the legend. And he's like, these are bestowed to the great houses. So do you really understand it now, Ronoro Zoro? This is the power that reigns over the world. He summons the blade again. He's like looking down at Gram, the sword of wrath. This is the weapon that House Shepherd get. And then it jumps over to Killingham, who's got a spear. That is the Longinus spear of holy life, the weapon bestowed to his house. And then Eam, you should be honoured that you are dying to this weapon. You know, the arms that constructed the world. And Luffy screams out in like a final death moment before two axes come in flying to block this single axe. And Gabon enters the arena. That is where the chapter ends, but absolutely nuts. So Eames' omens are the access to a huge weapon wheel of legendary weapons that were the original founders of this world. So Nemesis is the divine punishment sword. We had Stigma, which is the vengeful demon. Vohu, the blade of nothingness we've seen. Fragrark is the sea god sword he used second. The Zingtinian axe, we don't know if it's got another name to it yet, like a sort of longer version, but the axe he is currently wielding here. The sword of wrath is Gram, the Longinus spear of holy life. He mentioned, well, Summer mentioned Tohu, Bohu, and Muramasa. Now, Tohu and Bohu sound awfully similar to Yoru, which is what Mihawk is wielding, so whether there's some resemblance there. But all of these blades are black and covered in demonic ancient shadows, magic, sheer, unbelievable weapons. We know Muramasa from like an ancient, like ancient Japanese blade. So I assume they've all got some mythological or ancient sort of symbolism. We don't know if the spear Eam appeared with when he first came into this arc was another one of those blades. Likely so, though, because it was a fucking cool weapon. So, Nemesis, Stigma, Vohu, Fragrark, Zingtinian Axe, Gram, Longinus, Tohu Bohu, Muramasa, and the Spear. That's only 11 potentially of the 19 that we have seen or at least heard of. So it is nuts that we are now seeing the power of these omens. So we know that all of the celestial dragon houses, the ones that are chosen, are able to access one of those weapons. So I'm sure Eam can obviously choose to access them as well. But he bestows those omens around and they can access their respective house weapon, which is pretty cool. But nuts chapter, absolutely insane what we are seeing here. Can't wait to see what the left hand of the Pirate King now gets up to go axe for axe, which is going to be pretty cool. But there is still a big glaring problem that Luffy's got two swords impaled through his chest. One which is draining his life force. The other which potentially is going to nullify his devil fruit. So we'll see how he gets out of this one. But I don't think they're in any fit state to leave Elbaf anytime soon. But if they do deal with Eam, or Eam has to leave, I think this is really going to highlight now to Luffy how serious he needs to be going forward. But I can't wait, because what a phenomenal chapter that was. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Let me know what you thought of this chapter, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.